Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Zach Allison with ATS. I'm your ATS National Accounts Manager, working with engineering firms all across Canada, from East Coast to West, and even our US partners working with firms that have multiple offices across the US, and helping you get set up on the ATS spec tool. If this is your first time attending, thank you for joining us. ATS spec tool is a free product selection software that brings together multiple manufacturers and makes it easy and free to configure the products and then download them to put into your projects. One of the other big pieces that we do is try to help you get the right product and the right application. And over the years, that has transformed into this ATS University session that you are attending. So we really try to focus on product education of all the different products and types of products that are available on the ATS spec tool. So if this is your first time, feel free to reach out to me after. Either myself or my team will be happy to give you a deeper dive into the world that is ATS and I think 45, 46 different manufacturers that are on the system, on the spec tool now, from all across the plumbing and mechanical world, trying to make your life easier and more helpful along the way. So part of this is our ATS University program, where we do issue a certificate of attendance to all those that join us. This is going to be a recorded presentation. So if you want to come back to this after the session, I'll show you at the end of the session how you can find the recorded webinar. And our team will be reaching out later on this week with the certificate of attendance. So if you need to report this for your hours, for your CPD hours or your PEO hours, whatever it is. This will help you get towards that for any of the self-reporting credits. I am pretty sure that this is not an ASPE accredited presentation, right? Well, because we're really, ASPE wants it to be very generalized, and this is a deep dive, not necessarily into the product, but we are going to talk about product as it relates to real world sizing examples, right?
Right, you're correct. Yes,
Perfect. So,
yes.
I guess with all that being said, I'll be keeping an eye on the chat for the most part during the presentation, but I'll be interrupting as you go, Will. And with
Terrific.
us today is Will Kublis from the AO Smith team. Will, I don't even know your title anymore. King of everything water heater is an appropriate title. Does everything.
Yes.
I ask him for quotes. I ask him for sizing help. I ask him for best practices. I ask him for installation stuff. So everything that as it relates to water heaters and tough questions, that should maybe be your title, answer of tough questions. But thanks for joining us
Sure.
today, Will.
All right. Terrific. Thanks, Zach. Really appreciate the introduction there. And you're right. I do get involved in, from helping select a water heater for various projects. I get involved with the installers that install the product. I get involved with after the sale and making sure that the customer is happy with their product. Right. And we do that across Canada. So we have regional people that obviously it doesn't make sense for me to go to Vancouver or whatever. So we do have people right across the country, very similar to myself there. So I did put my email address there. So if anybody does have any questions, it's wkublis@hotwater.com. Uh, it's kind of funny. I like to say this that I live and breathe hot water, but I live in the town of cold water. So I thought it was kind of interesting. But anyhow, our discussion here is obviously on sizing commercial water heaters. And I would think that if this was a university or a college course, it would probably be a good part of a semester. So try to accomplish this in 1 hour is a bit of a challenge. So I did put this presentation together. Uh, to try to accomplish this goal as quickly as we can. And as I guess every engineer knows that if they had tons of time to build the most beautiful mechanical system, as they kept getting more and more time to develop their system, it would get better and better as time. So uh, I uh, always look at these presentations and think, hey, I could have done this better, but here we go. So first, I just want to thank the ATS team for putting this together. This is your contacts for your ATS people, and they're there to obviously help as well when it comes to questions on sizing and stuff. So uh, our website, we do have, and there is sometimes some confusion there. We have our US site, and if you go to hotwater.com, there is a tab pick your country. So to save you the time of having to do that, just go to hotwatercanada.ca. And this is where you're going to find your information on the sizing tools that we're about to discuss here. So you would click on professional, and then when you do that, you'll see a tab for engineers. And then as you see that tab, you can go and pick out our pro size. You'll see also some other things like online training in there. That training is very helpful for people that maybe aren't familiar with our cyclone water heaters. They could watch a short little video on that. Or if they're, people trying to troubleshoot a product, there are service videos on that. But as you see, you'll see our ProSize tool, and that is what I'm going to focus mostly on here today because it's simple, makes our lives easier having this tool. Uh, so there are methods of sizing water heaters, and one of them, of course, I put right at the top is the ProSize program that we provided. This ProSize program has been used by A.O. Smith now. I don't quote me on the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in around 15 or 16 years now. We've had this ProSize program out. It is reliable and very easy to use where once I point you in the right direction, you may not necessarily need me. So it is a fairly easy tool. Uh, there is other methods of sizing. One of them is we used to publish an orange binder, and I'm pretty sure everybody's no longer using them. But in the orange binder were some sizing documents, and those documents help explain the various theory behind the different application. And just as a reminder, mostly every business is unique in their water usage and requires thought. And these little documents that you can find online there do provide just that direction that may help you figure out your sizing. Of course, there's the ASHRAE and ASPE sizing guides that are used. I find that the ASHRAE sizing, there are some different in alone the ASHRAE guide has like maybe three different methods of sizing, and they all seem to come up with different results. So I find I get a little overwhelmed sometimes when I start using it, but I try to use ProSize as much as I can. You can also like sizing a water heater, if it's an existing business and they just, updating their equipment, why not just go get the rating labels off the water heater and duplicate what they have, So that's not necessarily the best because, it may be undersized or oversized already, but generally, if the water heaters have performed well in the past, the new replacement ones of equal value should continue to do perform as well. There's our Hunter's curve for tankless water heaters, and we're going to use that. And then, of course, if all in doubt and you're not sure, please feel free to contact your ATS rep or AO Smith for assistance, which I have my contact information, and I do have our at the very end an email that you can contact AO Smith as well. As I mentioned, those sizing principle documents, these are available on hotwater.com. And then just, as I mentioned back here, just put in the search sizing diagrams and it will bring them up for you. So that's that. The ASHRAE sizing method there's a whole chapter on this. And this document is, I don't know, probably 25, 30 pages long. So we're not going to go into that too much, touch on a little bit. As I said, we're doing a restaurant sizing application here. So we're going to focus on the out of the ASHRAE chapter here. We are going to take the numbers from that for our sizing example. Uh, Common formulas, you have to know these formulas. They're very important. There's not very many of them. The mixing formula, the mixed hot water, is the one that I use the most. This formula over here is to determine how much hot water and how much cold water you need to achieve the temperature. So for a good example is your shower temperature. If you're trying to figure out what my percentage of hot would be, uh, my mixed temperature is usually 105 degrees for showers. We use 40 degrees for our cold water here. If you do know that you are working on a project that may be 35 degrees, I would enter that in. And your hot is what you store the water at. So if I stored my water at 140 degrees minus my cold, I can easily determine my percentage of hot water required for that shower. So uh, and then once I determine my amount of hot water, then the rest is pretty straightforward here. For kilowatts, for example, if I know that I needed 100 gallons of hot water an hour times my temperature rise, so 40 degrees up to say 140 is a 100-degree rise, divide by 14, and I know I need 25 kilowatts of power to heat that water every hour. So, very important formulas. Just to talk about storage just for a second. The advantage of having storage is it does take a little bit of pressure off of us as designers because I have a little bit of reserve and a buffer, if I wanted to call it, of hot water stored in the bank so that I can deal with short, instantaneous, high demands. So, it's typically required when the demand for hot water can exceed the instantaneous heating ability of the equipment. So, uh, buildings with high peak demand, such as apartments, hotels, gyms, restaurants, hospitals, and schools, often need storage just because of the number of users, the unpredictability of the hot water that's going to be used. Having that storage will help provide the water that can be required for those instantaneous high peak demands. Good examples of when you need storage is what we call dump draws. Uh, Commercial sinks. If I'm filling a commercial sink, they want to fill it fast, and having the water in storage for that is important. Commercial laundry. They want to fill a laundry machine uh, quickly. They don't want to wait for one tankless water heater to spend 20 minutes to fill. They want to fill it quickly. Industrial showers. Generally, you'll see industrial showers. Everybody at the end of a shift is all running to shower. Uh, you need that water in storage. Emergency showers. We know that we need 20 gallons a minute for 15 minutes. That's a lot of water. That should be generally in showers or in storage. Zamboni fills. The operator of a Zamboni wants to put 140 gallons of hot water into a Zamboni. He wants to do it quickly. Generally, storage is required. Any industrial process, batch fills, any fast fill requirement, generally I would have that in storage for the first fill. Uh, for continuous draws, industrial processes that use water for long durations, such as wash process, like in mining, I don't know, maybe they're washing eggs or potatoes or something where the water's running all day. The general rule there is very simple. You put the first 15 minutes of the draw in storage, and then your recovery rate must equal or be greater to the flow rate that you have. So always the first 15 minutes of storage. Um, this is just so you're aware that there is a tank draw efficiency. It's a term we use quite often. And all tank type water heaters, we consider 70% draw efficiency, which means if I have a 100-gallon water heater, only 70% of that volume is usable hot water. And the reason for that is when the cold is entering the tank, it's entering the bottom of the tank, and that makes the tank, that bottom 30% of the tank not usable. It will be cold and people will not be happy with that water. You can improve the draw efficiency by mixing a tank, which having circulated water will improve the draw efficiency to 80%. So anyhow, I if I needed 70 gallons of hot water for a dump into a tank or into a sink or whatever, I would need a 100-gallon water heater. And just as observations, water and cold, they tend to form thermoclines. So as I start drawing this tank off, the water stays fairly consistent for most of the 70 gallons. Near the end there, you might start seeing some temperature drop off, but that 70 gallons is of usable water. Uh, is pretty much consistent at your set point temperature, and near the end it will drop 30 degrees from its set point. So typical or tank type versus on-demand type water heater. So we've already mentioned tank type large storage volume to satisfy momentary high demands, usually requiring less energy input. So it's there as our safety factor. We have water in the bank to deal with multiple sinks being used at the same time. Unpredictable sometimes. So um, remember, sizing tank type water heaters is different than tankless. Sizing is based on fixture probability uh, or probable hourly use. Whereas over on the other side, tankless, we need to make sure that we size tankless for any uh, for all the momentary high demands. Sizing is based on fixture units and probability of which fixtures will be operating simultaneously. And then pressure restrictions must be accounted for with tankless, whereas tank type water heater, we do consider tank type water heaters to have zero pressure drop across that tank.
So just a question here on tankless versus tank type, because this has come up pretty regularly. Do you have a like a baseline or a ballpark in GPM where you're like, hey, that's getting pretty high for tankless? Is it 5 GPM, 10 GPM, 20? Like, well, what is a good
Yes.
level before we want to start looking at tank type?
Well, that's not there isn't really any particular case where you do have to go to tank type. For example, we just did a project where they put 30 tankless water heaters in one building. So we just keep adding to them to if that's what you want. If you don't want storage, then and you go tankless, then uh, I do have a couple of examples here, though, moving on here, when you might want to, at some point in time, it doesn't make sense to put tankless in, and maybe tank type water heaters are better. So maybe at the end, if I haven't answered that, we can come back to that question. But anyhow, as I mentioned, that every business is unique and requires thought. What I always do with these is I determine the application, obviously the building type. Need to know that information. What is it? A hotel, a restaurant, an office building. We need to know that because it is all different. We draw out a timeline of use. I have to draw it out and draw out when they're using the water and the rest period when maybe they're not using water, maybe they're using it all day. So I would draw it out, and this is in one of our sizing documents that we've had from years gone by. Gives an idea of what I'm speaking of here. Decide whether this is going to be an intermittent or continuous use. Determine my storage or dump loads, any fast fills. Uh, and calculate your storage and recovery. So we're going to do that using ProSize right now. Just as a note, because we are talking about uh, restaurants, I did want to point out about the different types of dishwashers and something that you should consider in your design. So I find the low temp chemical rinse dishwashers are the most common. They require 140-degree water for them. High temp dishwashers with built-in boosters, they also only require 140-degree water, whereas the dishwasher will have an internal booster to boost the water up to the final rinse of 180 degrees. Then you have, I don't see these too often, but I still have run across some high temp dishwashers where they require 180-degree water from the water heater. Now, I tend to discourage this. The reason for it is because a water heater, it can be difficult to hold the 180-degree water out of a water heater, as somebody could have been filling a sink or using some other high demands, and the water temperature has dropped a little bit. When I say wear and tear on the water heater, hot water, you increase the temperature of the water, the more corrosive water gets to be. So you have a very expensive water heater, a big main water heater. Having 180-degree water in there is very hard on the tank, and I don't think you'll get the best life expectancy out of your water heater by storing the entire content at 180 degrees. And then there's the challenge when you need 180-degree water within 5 feet of a dishwasher. So you're going to be circulating 180-degree water all the time. And it's also, you will need mixing valves, obviously, for the other fixtures. That's my note on that. So here's my example. Draw out a commercial kitchen, and I think this is pretty typical of an awful lot of restaurants, but they will all have a triple pot sink, single pot sink, your dishwasher, pre-rinse hand sprayer, where the operator's going to rinse off any excess food. Uh, Before it goes in the dishwasher, I have hand sink, mop sink. We have men's and women's washrooms, bar sink, glass washer. So what I did here is I made my list up, which pretty much I find every engineer does make a list and provides that to us. And then I decide, made my list, my sinks and so forth. And then I decided what should I have in storage? Well, triple pot sink. Uh, if you go to ASHRAE, which I have that on my next slide coming, where I came up with these numbers, but ASHRAE says a triple pot sink you should have 90 gallons or plan on 90 gallons to fill a triple pot sink. Uh, and recovery, that's my gallons per hour. Well, that pot sink could be filled every hour. So you need to at least recover a 90 gallon per hour pot sink. There's the rest of my equipment and then my storage. You'll notice I totaled it at 90 to 130 gallons. Typically, most restaurants, they would only use one sink at a time. They would use the triple pot sink and fill that sink. So I would normally say I only need a minimum of a 90-gallon water heater for that restaurant. But if I did know that, there's a catering business and they're constantly using all these sinks, I might go as far as the 130-gallon tank. Because they could have two operators potentially filling a triple pot sink and a single at the same time. So remember, all fast fills should be in storage. So I put a recovery value to each one of these fixtures. I chose 50 gallons for the dishwasher. When you pick out a dishwasher, usually the manufacturer of the dishwasher has a spec sheet and tells you how much hot water you need to put aside every hour, how many racks per hour, how many gallons per rack, And typically, like I find a Boston Pizza or something uses 50-gallon-an-hour dishwasher. There's the pre-rinse hand sprayer. My lav sinks, I put 5 gallons per hour per sink. My bar sink, we're told by ASHRAE, put up 30 gallons for that aside. Anyhow, I come up with a total of 295 gallons per hour. I would need 245,000 BTUs of power of heating power to heat that water. If I converted that over, that would be 72 kilowatts of energy. And then for my fixture units, I use the ASHRAE modified Hunter's curve. I came up with some fixture units, which I'll show you on the next slide here. Came up with a total of 23.3 fixture units. That works out to 1,165,000 BTUs or 341 kilowatts of power to heat that water instantaneous. That's why you typically don't see electric tankless water heaters just because of the kilowatt demand. So I'll move on here to where I got my numbers from. I just used the ASHRAE numbers for my recovery rate for all of my fixtures. Then my fixture units, I use the ASHRAE modified Hunter's curve, which is a document. You can just Google ASHRAE modified Hunter's curve, and it will come up for you. And they have put some fixture units, assigned fixture units. So for restaurants, there's my list, and I came up with a 23.3 fixture units. When you're using the ASHRAE modified Hunter's curve, you will notice there now you take your fixture units over to the graph and you find the curve for restaurants, curve A. And if you look at 23.3 uh, fixture units, sure if you can see my mouse on the screen there, but I come up my little red line there pointing at it. It's basically telling me that I need to put about almost 28, 25, somewhere gallons per minute aside for my tankless. You'll notice that the ASHRAE Hunter's curve starts at 20. If you just say the word restaurant, they want 20 gallons per minute uh, uh, for a tankless water heater. As you'll see shortly, one tankless water heater is capable of heating about 4 gallons per minute at a time. So I would need 5 tankless water heaters for this application. So this is a manual method. So in all niceness, our ProSize makes life easy. So I'm going to switch over to ProSize here. And I am going to click on my professional. Then I go to, uh, where is my ProSize here? ProSize tool. Comes up with all these different applications. Your apartment, hotel, dormitory, schools, restaurants, and food service. We have several different applications in here to use, but we're talking about restaurants. So as I said, this is pretty straightforward. You basically just start off reading line by line down and making your choice. I like using the US numbers. Some prefer the metric. You can switch it over to metric. But in our application here, we have water heaters only, water heaters with external storage, commercial tankless, water heaters no storage. You can mix commercial tankless with storage, and you can try different examples back and forth. You don't lose your data here. But anyhow, we're going to do the water heater selection first. I choose natural gas. I can choose electric. I can choose propane. Of course, my equipment, we're in Canada, is going to be indoors. Uh, Low NOx is used in certain states, California, Minnesota, and certain areas have certain low NOx requirements. If you choose that you want ASME product only, I would click on the ASME button here. We want to recommend product for Canada only. There are products that AO Smith builds that are not available here in Canada, so this will only pick out our Canadian product. This does allow you to say, I want two water heaters for my application, one as a backup. So that will allow you to uh, uh, select two in here if you wish. Uh, we're just going to let the program pick it out on its own. My cold water temperature, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, if this was maybe Timmins, they could see 35-degree temperature, so you could change that. My stored water, we normally store water at 140, just for bacteria purposes and so forth. Now, there is some choices here. Peak demand period. This could be where your restaurant is. It kind of goes hand in hand with meals served here. So, for example, if I knew that I was going to serve 100 meals an hour, I could put my 100 meals, or sorry, my meals served per day. My meals served be 100 per day. My and then I know that I was going to serve those 100 meals over 3 hours. Uh, it's going to make a bit of a difference and change. But I normally leave the peak demand period at 1 for most restaurants because whatever if they're a full busy restaurant from 12 until like, or from 11 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon, or from 6 till till like 10 o'clock at night. Whatever water I use in that 1 hour, I want to reheat it and have it ready for the next hour. So I just leave it at 1 for myself. But in here, I can just put in my number of sinks. In our application, we had one pot sink, we had one triple sink, we had one hand operated hand sprayer, we had a bar sink in our restaurant. We had a lab in the men's washroom, one in the women's, and a hand sink in the kitchen for the staff. We had a pot or one mop sink, my dishwasher. So, so this is a big question here. Uh, if you don't know the dishwasher yet, you might want to put a budget number in here. But in my particular case, I knew that I wanted 50 gallons per hour. This button over here called View Equipment List. I'm going to go there just for 1 second because this is can save you a whole lot of trouble. But we have every manufacturer of dishwasher here pretty much that we know of. And then when I click on, say, Hobart, for example, uh, an AM15 seems to be a pretty popular dishwasher. It will tell you how many. This is my gallons per minute flow rate. If I was using a tankless water, I need 4.4 gallons per minute. Uh, or in this case here, my hourly usage is 47.4 gallons um, per hour. So I go back to my example here. Uh, Somehow or another, I kind of lost it here. What did I do, Zach? I lost my example.
You're just back on your presentation side. So if you Alt Tab over, it should go back
Yeah. Let me
and
close
then
that both
go to,
up.
yeah,
There we go.
exactly. There
I'm
you
back.
go.
Yeah. So I put in my 50 gallons per hour for my dishwasher. I could put in, for sinks. I can add additional load. Like for example, uh, I know a lot of restaurants, there'll be like a hot water hose, to go wash the back area of where the loading dock is or something like that. So you might want to add that in there, but I'm not. But you can see here it came up with a peak demand of 270 US gallons per hour. I hit submit, and our ProSize has picked out some gas water heater options for you. Uh, Says that one BTH 199 should look after my restaurant example here. gives me some extra choices. If I want, I can go back into my uh, program here, and now I can change it to electric. I haven't lost my data, so it's very easy to go and pick electric water heaters out. I hit my product search, and it is going to pick out some electric water heaters. So it's telling me I need 54 kilowatts of power, and uh, uh, and a 120 gallon tank is ideal for that because of remember I had a triple pot sink, and it generally once you say triple pot sink you usually need a 90 gallon minimum water heater for that. So that's uh, there's back up here again. I can go backwards and I can do my tankless. So I hit tankless in here, no storage. Now, you do need to put in, all of your, and with this one, it does change a little bit because it's calculating more off fixture units than probable hour demand. But if I did put all of that information in there, number of sinks, it will come out with 5 tankless water heaters, and I'll show you that in a second. So that's somehow or another. Sorry, guys. One thing I'm not skilled at is my technical skills on computers. So
You're
anyhow,
nailing it. What are you talking about? You're doing great.
okay. So here, just as an example, uh, ProSize did pick out some choices. It did pick out my some different cyclones. I could click on select, and then you can print this report. It will provide you a 2-page report, a ProSize report. It will give you information about the water heater that you chose, and then page 2 will have all of your load data that you use to come up with this selection. You can save that for future use. And I do all the time because if somebody ever came back on me, the restaurant is now open and they're complaining that they ran out of hot water. Did they switch the dishwasher last minute to put a bigger, larger capacity dishwasher in? Are they, using it for more than the restaurant can handle? I don't know. So I keep it. It does, as I said, nice PDF program or a print report for you. And as you can see here, I did put there's a tankless option in there, the ACT 199. You can see it shows you 5 of those tankless units. The electric choices here. I don't want to dwell on this too much here, but we do have quite a variety of electric water heaters, and they all have some reason and purpose. So, for example, our Dell and Den models, there are light duty units, but they only go up to 12 kilowatts. And 12 kilowatts, that's only going to heat just under 50 gallons of water an hour. So when you do need more than that, you do need to switch over to our DRE or DVE models. We do have 2 units up here showing they're very similar. However, one has a screen on it. The one that has a screen on it is an immersion type thermostat. The probe is right in the water, sensing the water temperature in the tank. Whereas the model without the screen, it uses surface mounted thermostats that measure the outer tank. If the thermostat's not right in the water, it's not as accurate of a water heater, and therefore we call it more for general purpose type water. So the immersion unit, it does allow you to go to temperatures up to 190 Fahrenheit. And when you have that screen on it, it does have some adjustments so that you can tell the heater when do you want it to start putting elements on. So if I had it set to 180 degrees, the lowest differential, or the smallest differential is 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So if it dropped 2 degrees from its set point, elements are going to start coming on. And you have control over that externally. It also shows you some stats on the water heater. So if an element burned out, for example, it would show the owner of the facility that the element is burned out. Whereas the DRE model, it has surface mounted thermostats. They can have as much as a 15-degree drop in temperature before it tells the heater to start turning back on. So on that same example, it could drop to 125 before it starts telling it to heat back up. So the DVE is used more for restaurants because of the ability to keep the temperatures up in control. They are limited to 54 kilowatts, and that's when if you decide you need one heater and 54 kilowatts wasn't quite enough, then you move over to our DSC series. It is also very accurate as far as water heating, ideal for sanitizing purposes. And then we also have our heat pump water heater. It's a commercial unit, 120 gallons. It's only capable of up to 90 gallons per hour. So it does have its limitations, but it would be ideal for, like a Starbucks or something like that, where they're really not using all that much water. But ProSize will pick that out for you. So with our gas water heaters, there is quite a variety of different size water heaters, but I'll focus on the cyclones. They seem to be our most common for restaurants. They are medium to high commercial type usage, up to 500,000 BTUs. And we do have these available in sizes from 60 gallons to 119 gallons. So they're again for general purpose hot water for water usage up to 180 degrees. Again, uh, I have a slide that will talk about one of the features that's important. I think is the bigger cyclones. We do build the same BTH models, but in a 225 or 250 gallon model. And then fairly recently introduced was our Cyclone BTHS models with BTU inputs of 750 to 1 million BTUs. And these are basically almost semi-instantaneous type of hot water heater. There is some storage in them, but now you can heat your water almost instantaneous with this type heater. This Cyclone, this is a new series for us now. We've just introduced this about 8 months ago now. So you may be still familiar with our BTH Series 300. So we're now onto the 400 series. And what we did with the 400 series is we did change the screen, made it a little bit bigger, more colorful, easier to use. Uh, what we've increased the vent lengths for this. So we can now, with this product, vent either 150 feet or up to 200 feet with 4-inch venting on these models. So that was a big improvement for our industry because generally, as a rule, cyclones were limited to 120 feet of vent. So now 200 feet is capable with this product. And the nice thing with this, with the cyclones, they have powered anode rods in them, so non-sacrificial anodes. And now they come with a leak detector. The leak detector is a standard feature. It's a little probe that would sit on the base of the heater, and it would alert the owner of the facility if there was water on the floor. Different venting options with cyclones. They can be power vented, they can be direct vented. If you are power venting, then you do need to make provisions for air in the boiler room. So that's why direct vent is so important, is that the direct vent, where the two pipe system, the units are taking all its combustion air from outside, so you do not need to engineer any combustion air in the room. And then our tankless models, we are just right now in the midst of an evolution change. Uh, it has just been posted on our US website, our new model. It's our ACTH 199, which we should expect arrival of that here in Canada sometime late June. The unique feature about the ACTH 199 is the quality of the combustion chamber. It is one heat exchanger, where most tankless water heaters have a primary and a secondary heat exchanger. This is all done in one. It's all 316L stainless steel. The water passage inside of that combustion chamber is about 135-foot long piece of pipe. No welds, no seams. There are only two welds just at the connection point where the water enters the combustion chamber and leaves. Uh, it these both our tankless models do go to 185-degree water, and the one nice thing about tankless is once you set it to 185, it's pretty accurate as far as the delivery temperature. It will deliver 185, maybe 184, but they are very accurate, and especially for areas where sanitizing rinse water is required. Making sure you have 185-degree water all the time, or 180-degree water at minimum, it will deliver that. The new tankless model, the ACTH, it will vent up to 150 feet, whereas the older model was only 100 feet. We have optional Wi-Fi capabilities and BACnet for our tankless water heaters. You can cascade up to 32 units, and you can common vent up to 12 units on one vent system. And with the new model, we have an 8-year heat exchanger warranty, which and 5-year parts, which is a little more warranty than we've had in the past. And the ACTH 199, it does have an optional scale prevention kit where it will eliminate heat exchanger flushing, but your water temperatures, return water temperatures, have to be under 120 degrees Fahrenheit, or you'll damage the cartridge. So that is new with our tankless. Uh, just as a note on tankless water heaters, the ACTH 199, it's 199,000 BTUs. It's 95% efficient. If I put that into my formula, very simple, you can figure out what your flow rate would be. In this case, I've done the math already for you. An ACTH 199 will deliver roughly 3.8 gallons per minute of hot water. That's it. It will hold the water back to deliver my 140-degree water. So if I have it hooked up to a building that has multiple sinks, and I open one faucet that's capable of flowing 4 gallons per minute, this heater will produce 3.878 gallons per minute to that faucet. If somebody opens up another 4 gallon per minute faucet, that 3.8 is going to be split between the two faucets. So that's why you may want to consider common venting. So we do offer rack systems for both the models that I've shown you. We are switching over to the new model, but we do have factory built rack systems to make it easier for the installer. They only have one hot water line, one cold water, one gas line. However, they do have to vent several units with tankless in your restaurant application. So um, The This is just a picture here of common venting. So there's uh, having 30 tankless water heaters does create a bit of a challenge for venting 30 water heaters. So you can common vent our product. You will notice in the picture the exhaust is on the right side of the unit. Uh, there is a backflow accessory that's added onto each tankless water heater. That accessory is there in the event that one heater is down for service and somebody took the panel cover off, that the exhaust of the operating units could not come back into the room and contaminate, put carbon monoxide or vent products into the boiler room. Uh, and I just, on my last note here, I just always stress the importance of thermal expansion on every design that you do. Uh, uh, we appreciate, you specifying our product, but this is a very important part of the longevity of our water heater is making sure that there is a properly sized thermal expansion tank on the system. Me being the guy that goes out to job sites and I look at jobs that maybe they only get 4 or 5 years out of a water heater, and they're wondering why, and I don't see a thermal expansion tank. And I if you look at the theory of water when it expands, 40 gallons of hot water, um, or cold water, 40 gallons of cold water heated up to 160 degrees becomes 41 gallons. Where does that extra gallon go? In a closed loop system with back checks and everything, it will expand the water heater and eventually break the glass lining, and so forth. So anyhow, I am done. There is our email, engage@hotwater.com. That is an email that you can send any inquiries to, and then they will filter it off to the right people, or you can reach out to your ATS reps and so forth. But anyhow, I wanted to thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Will. There was actually, so I'm going to jump into showing how they could find the products that we talked about today. But before we do that, there's a couple of questions that came in. I just didn't want to ruin your cadence because I knew you're flying through those different products. So there's a couple of questions on the pro sizing and in terms of sizing. One, and I think this is a very reasonable one. We see this pretty regularly. You'll have an option there on office building sizing or in the restaurant sizing in this case, where you have like a number of occupants or the number of meals served, which is a bit of an override. So, in which case would you use meals served versus the fixtures? Is it in either order where you enter the fixtures or the meal served, or is it, in conjunction?
Yes, that's a great question. And I would look at both of those. If you do know the meals served, then most people don't. So that's where I kind of struggle with. So I look at it if I just go with the hourly demand with the dishwasher, just pick out the 1 hour. I have a dishwasher that cannot use more than 50 gallons an hour. It's just impossible. The operator can't jam more dishes through. However, that they may have bought a dishwasher that can wash, I don't know, 33 racks an hour. But what happens if it's just you already know that it's just like a small cafeteria and yeah, they oversize the dishwasher and yeah, we're only going to do 20 meals, type of thing. Then that's when I would use that. If only when uh, specifically. And I just find that I could never get that information, how many meals served per
Yeah.
day, right?
Yes, very
Um,
rarely get that. I guess more information, the better is a good kind of short
yes,
TLDR version of that. A couple other quick questions coming in because we are approaching the end of the hour. I don't want to dive too long
sure.
into any of these. Yes, we're going to have a PDF copy of the presentation available. Just respond to Natalia and her team when we send out your certificates of attendance. They asked where they can find the recorded video. So I'll show you how you can find the recorded webinar in just a second after we address this other question. When it comes to peak demand period, what sort of applications would you use the longer range? And I think that's a pretty easy answer. That's in the sizing guides. That's in the ASHRAE guide, right? those different applications have a dictated peak demand period. Is that correct?
Yes. So yes. So for apartments, for example, we there is a button after you're following through the step by step going to pro size. There is a button that asks you about your low, medium, and high peak demand. Uh, and there's another little button beside it that you just put your cursor over it, and it will define what is considered a low, medium, and high peak demand. So again, we're limited to time. I'd love to have gone through all of those, but um, we just didn't have enough time for that. If anybody wants us
No
to come
problem.
by
And then, yeah, of course.
we're happy to do that, right?
Of course. And we can set those up, whether it's Mo, Andre, myself, Melanie in Quebec, or any of our team across the US. We're happy to set up those joint training sessions. If you want to deep dive this topic specifically, we're happy to do so. I did see my last kind of favorite question, which was, I've done the pro size, I've downloaded my sizing guide, but when I hit the spec sheet, it doesn't necessarily work all the time. Well, let me solve your problem even better than what you're looking for there. All of those spec sheets are directly embedded onto the ATS spec platform. If this is, again, your first ATS university, thank you for joining us. You probably were unsure of what you were coming into, so thank you for taking the time to spend with us. I imagine you haven't seen the spec tool either. The spec tool is a product selection, a product configuration system, something as simple as that water heater that we were looking at, the DVE 120. There's 10, 15 different kilowatt ratings. There's, 8 different voltage options. There's different additional options. Those are all going to be configured on the tool. And then you can download the exact model name and number of what your sizing guide recommended directly on the site. First, we do have our architects and engineering tab here, Learning Hub, and the webinar recordings. This will take you to all of this session and all of our previous sessions. So if you want to see information on cast iron pipe or barrier-free design guides or infection prevention and control, all sorts of different topics from all the different manufacturers that are available on the system. Once you're happy with the product and looking to select it, just simply lock in the top right corner here, and that'll bring you into your dashboard like this, where you can see I'm in my Demo Eng Canada account here. You get a nice little visible guide of how many projects, how many quick specs you've been doing, different products that are being highlighted. All your different projects and quick specs are available here. You can also navigate that all here on the left. And I'm going to rush through this a little bit because I want to respect everyone's time and get this done as fast as I can. We have projects, masters, and quick specs. Those are basically different levels of folders in varying degrees of rules and recommendations. Our quick spec is simply imagine just opening up a binder. It's an available selection. You can configure your selection, but our rules engine is not recommending barrier free because we don't know where the project's located. It's not recommending, for example, say a low NOx heater based on your location or low for low products based on your location. That would be within your project. When you create a project, you add a location and you select an application. Now we can start recommending product that's suitable for that application or is appropriate for that location. Different provinces, different states have different accessibility standards. So if you're selecting a project in Texas, you'll get the Texas ability standard. If you're selecting a project in British Columbia, you'll get the BC barrier free code, Ontario building code, Quebec building code, et cetera, all the way across North America. And then for application, I'm going to discard this right now because I already set up a quick spec. And then our masters is where you're doing multiple versions of those projects. I was working with a client this morning where they have a number of daycares. They have a daycare account that they have for the year. They're doing 10 or so different daycares on the year. We set up a master. The master is going to be constantly updated. So if a manufacturer discontinues a model, let's say they've just launched this new BTH Flex model and all the other BTH older models are going out of date. This will give you push notifications that, hey, your commercial restaurant chain that includes the BTH 250 based on our sizing guide has an out of date model number. We recommend reselection with the BTH Flex. That sort of notification goes out from our team all the time. whether it be from A.O. Smith or Watts or American Standard or any of the other 40, 50 different manufacturers that are on the system. Those push notifications protect your master, and those masters help you build a project in a matter of seconds. So here you can see I've got my commercial sizing webinar here. Before I dive into even selecting an individual fixture, I want to finish off on that master train of thought. Here's your use masters or templates. This is where you can store and access your specific firm's masters in this first tab, and then the ATS templates, which is basically the ATS masters in this tab. You can filter by application, so we could see commercial master templates. We could search by different applications. We can search for, say, an office building where we've got class A, B, and C offices. So if we're popping this down, we can find our washrooms, our kitchens, our mechanical room, which is where these products are going to live that we're talking about today. And you can be confident that these are the approved products based on your standard use of your standard product selection. And you can get a pretty accurate mechanical room in a matter of seconds by checking the box, dragging and dropping into your selection. If you just need the one item, then you would just check the one or two box. And maybe you just need a backflow and a water heater. We would just drag it over and drop those two fixtures in instead. So that's our quick method when we have a master set up, when you have a template ready to go. If you want to start with a individual product selection, then you can hit this other button, the add product button. And you can see all the different tiles, all the different categories that we have in this system. This is why I like to say get your masters set up, because it's going to help take care of the 80, 90% that's constant, that's pretty similar. But if you do want to go one by one, you can filter and search by category. We can filter down by division. So if we want to see division 22, and you can see I've pinned my favorite categories here at the top as well. So if we want to pin our backflow just to show that what that looks like, pops to the top. So now when you come back in the next time, your water heater is going to be pinned at the top. So we talked about the pro sizing system earlier. I did want to highlight the same exact link is embedded into the spec tool here. So if we click this water heater sizing tool button, when you talk about jumping back and forth and getting your spec sheets, you can do it just as easily and live here on the system. We're going to switch over to the Canadian English. We can go to our restaurant food service. You could go through, enter those same fixture categories as before. In this case, I'll put in the 270 that we already had determined. We see, okay, this recommends then that BTH 250 is what we were looking at. So now instead of, I'm going to bop back over really quick. So we've got our 250 flex is what it's recommending. So we can then search in here, BTH 250. And it's going to pop up the BTH 250 flex. I can then configure it to be natural gas. I can choose my ASME if I want it. I can choose my concentric vent or my condensate. And every time I update the model, make a selection, it's updating my model name and number. This is the difference of using the spec tool versus just the manufacturer spec sheet. This is why the manufacturers have partnered with ATS to provide you free access to this tool. It gives them a more accurate product selection that goes into your spec, which makes the quotation much easier for them and their team. They're more likely to get a correct price over to you if you are issuing a correct spec to market. The manufacturer spec sheet is embedded into the system here, or we can hit add product and add our configured version, which then is going to allow us to download 10 different types of output formats. So you saw I went through the fixture chain before, but this is what pops up. So everything that's recommended to go with this type of product is what's built into the fixture chain. I can make a selection here. Like I can go unsized, or I can size my expansion tank. I can skip over to my water heater and stands, or I can skip it completely and just hit complete. Once I'm happy with what I've selected, I can go and select these two water heaters that I want to present to my team and say, hey, these are the options that the sizing system recommended. What do you think? Do you like electric or do you like gas? And you would just hit this download button at the bottom, where you can then download submittals, schedules in Excel, 3 different types of Word specs, CSI manufacturer, CSI 3-part specs, the manufacturer spec sheets with EPDs if you need them, and even Revit files for everything in the system. Now, I've already pre-downloaded these just to show what it looks like. There's our plumbing schedule, backflow, mechanical, and gas water heaters. You're probably pretty familiar with the written specs, but this is a CSI three-part spec, and everything on the system is open and editable. So if you need to copy and paste this into your book spec, you can do so. We have the ability either in this document or directly on the system to add your alternatives as well. We're trying to be a one-stop shop. We don't want you to have to edit this after. So if you want to add your approved alternates, you can do so directly on the system. And then we have our long spec. So similar verbiage, similar breakdown, just the CSI three-part spec is performance, then model name and number, whereas our long spec is more model name and number, and then performance. And then, of course, our PDF submittals as well, which are available here. The manufacturer spec sheet, you get a nice table of contents here, puts all the manufacturer spec sheets on there, or our ATS submittals, which you might be pretty familiar with at this point, where we combine multiple names and numbers directly onto one page. So that's a very quick version of an intro to the ATS spec tool. If you need help getting started with adding your masters, that's what my team really is here for. That's what we do on most of our day-to-day is help get your internal standards built on the system so your entire team can share the efficiency of simply dragging and dropping, while you as a team lead or a principal get the confidence that it is constantly kept up to date and accurate. We're managing discontinuances, notifying you of any product model number changes. And then my team is also here to help out in setting up product education. So if you'd like to be more familiar with products like the new Flex water heater, if you want to deep dive into the tankless gas water heater when it launches here in Canada, or if you would like to discuss sizing for other applications, myself and my team across Canada are happy to bring in our colleagues like Will to assist in those conversations and make sure you're happy and comfortable with the product. Other than that, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Will, thank you again for
Thank
such
you,
a great
everyone.
presentation. Every time we have you talking sizing, we always have a ton of questions and a lot of great information. So I appreciate you sharing your wealth of experience, as do all I see a bunch of comments here giving you kudos and a great presentation. So thank you for the time today. Thank you all for joining us and have a great rest of the day. Bye for
All
now.
right. Okay. Thanks. Bye, everyone.